And we're back with the show. Once again, it's Gerald coming right back at you here. The Walking Dead hit its mid-season, season 9. It's halfway through already. Time flies. I don't know where it goes, but obviously a lot of walkers got killed along the way. And a lot of things did happen. It's probably the most momentous season in quite some time, with all the people exiting the show, the big names either dying or, obviously getting moved on to other projects and whatnot. And here to break down the season at the midway point is our good friend. She is the curator of The Walking Dead, as far as, excuse me, the Walking Dead fan base, but also Talking the Dead 18 plus. She is our good friend. It is Daphne Matthew. What's going on, Daphne? I'll tell you what. Season 9 is closing out on a note that I think a lot of people are kind of angry about so far when it comes to The Walking Dead.
Yeah, a lot of people are upset. Tom Paine, Jesus, the character Jesus died, unfortunately. I was not surprised. I knew it was coming.
And I think he was
Unfortunately.
not surprised either, because he didn't actually feel thrilled about the way his character was going.
Well, I mean, I get a lot of information from various sources, and back in season 8, he very loudly complained about his lack of screen time, we'll say. Jesus is a big character in the comics. He is huge. I think Jesus is still alive, and we're nearly close to 200 comics. And Jesus came on, I mean, when Tom Haynes came in as Jesus in season 6, he came in with a bang. If anybody goes back to season 6 and sees when Jesus first came on the show, it was amazing. Him, Rick, and Daryl fighting. And then all of a sudden, it was like he was kind of like phased out. He openly complained about, the lack of screen time. Here is a gentleman in his 30s, also from the UK. Go UK. We have a lot of UK actors on that show, where he had did martial arts training for 2 years, and his big fight was with Morgan, which is like, it's kind of weird because they were supposed to be like familiar to each other, friends, and his big fight is with another big character. So he wasn't very happy about it. He vocalized his dislike of the direction of his character. He mentioned in an article in March of this year, and I kind of knew when I read that article that he was leaving, because he hinted at Jesus's lifespan was finite. There was an end to it coming. And he also complained about the fact that, he didn't want to do a character indefinitely. He sort of like Andrew Lincoln. And also the fact that, when he was on the show and filming, he wouldn't get a full script. He wouldn't know he was filming until maybe a day before. So, he did mention on the Talking Dead after the mid-season finale, which he was overjoyed to be there. I was shocked. He was really happy. Maybe it's because he just got engaged. I don't know. But he said basically Angela Kang called him and told him, the week before he was supposed to film his the episode where the mid-season finale where he died, that you're gonna die in the mid-season finale. He's like, okay. I mean, he was like, as long as I get a good death, I don't care. So
Well,
that was his stance on the whole matter. He
well,
was
he
like,
got he
no.
got he
His
got
words was,
engaged. Oh, he got engaged, but he also got divorced from a show. But he got engaged in real life, so maybe that's
yeah.
why he was so happy.
Actually, his words was, as long as it's an epic death, he was satisfied with him departing the show. He wasn't very happy there. I mean, he was on the show for 3 years. If you think about it, season 6 was 3 years ago, and he was maybe featured in less than 10 episodes where he was featured. He was seen in maybe 20, but he was only featured in 6. And he said it was ironic that the episode where he died, the mid-season finale, was the first time he got to work with a lot of the characters that he ended up working with. In that episode, he was like, it was really ironic that his death episode was so huge and he got to work with a lot of people. I knew it was coming, unfortunately, and they kind of like hinted it, but the thing was, it was going back to Andrew Lincoln's departure. Before it was announced at Comic-Con that he was leaving, there was a leaked script that came out, and it was supposedly going to be Andrew Lincoln that died fighting the Herd, which we found out was not the typical Herd. It was the Whisperers. That was actually Jesus's death scene. So, I kind of knew it was happening. I was still shocked. I was still upset about it because it's like we're losing a lot of characters, and that's what led to my rant the next day on Facebook. I'll call it my rant post because I think AMC really needs to start taking a look. If they want the show to continue, they need to look at how are they going to keep the key actors. We already lost Andrew Lincoln, but Andrew Lincoln, although he's too big of a man to say it, he left because they killed off Carl. There's no doubt about it. He's a very classy guy. He's not going to, how should I say, bite the hand that feeds him. So he will play along with their game. He's doing the three movies that they announced. He's actually doing them to fulfill his contract because he actually did film. He actually did sign a contract to complete season 9. So when he decided that he had enough, he still has to fulfill an obligation to AMC. So he decided he'll do the 3 movies. He'll come back next year. He's actually going to come back next year and direct the episode. But other than that, after these 3 movies are done, which will lead, I do believe from the timing, it's actually going to be parallel to each of the next season. So in season 10, they're going to release a new movie. One of his featured movies. Season 11, they're going to release a featured movie of him. And season 12, they're going to release the final one. And that will be the end of his commitment to AMC. He has no desire to come back. He's not going to come back. There's still a lot of people who believe he'll come back because they saw him leave in the helicopter. He's not coming back. It was, like I said, he's too classy of a guy to bite the hand that feeds him, but I'll say it was a bitter divorce, him leaving the show. It was a bitter divorce. And he will fulfill his commitment to AMC, and he's done with them.
Well, one of the things I want to ask you as well, because you did write in that op-ed in regards to your frustrations with where the direction of the show is going and how AMC is handling it, is that they're devoting too much to one particular character who you love dearly, but you thought that there is too much at this point in time when it comes to Daryl and a focus on him. Is it because of the money that they've reportedly signed him to over the course of the next 2-3 seasons and whatnot, that he is now so expensive they feel they need to justify whatever they spent on him as far as trying to retain his services?
Well, no, actually, I don't think it's about the money with Norman Reedus. Like I said, I love Norman
on the
Reedus.
AMC end, is it to
actually, I think it's more so because actually the rumored 20 million he didn't get. He didn't get the 20 million, and he actually went on Twitter and confirmed that he did not get that quote unquote big contract. Him and Melissa McBride, who I also love, Carol, were signed to a 3-year extension leading up to season 12 after Andrew Lincoln's final episode. I think the problem with AMC is not so much with the money having to justify him being there. It's more so of the storyline they're trying to justify him still being alive, because hardcore fans know and comic readers know Daryl never existed. And had they not fired Frank Darabont, we'd be talking about Merle actually and not Daryl, because Daryl was supposed to die in season 2. But because the women, I'll say the fangirls and some fanboys, let's not forget the fanboys, fell in love with the character, they decided to keep him on and kill off Merle Dixon instead. So what they're doing now... Don't feel too bad
for Michael Rooker, because, you know, he had a nice career going forward.
Michael Rooker has an awesome career. He's always had an awesome career, so I don't feel bad for him.
Because Guardians of the Galaxy was obviously a great stroke for him, and he pretty much surprised and well, he pretty much took over and took a lot of the good scenes when it comes to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Yeah, he did. But I love Michael Rooker. He's actually had an awesome career. I mean, his career goes back. I think the first movie I saw him in was a Sylvester Stallone movie. I forget the name of the movie, but he's actually been acting about 30 years or more now. He just turned 65, I do believe, this past spring or summer. But he's had an awesome career. The Walking Dead really did not, I'll say, boost his career as far as getting roles. He was actually an asset to the show, because he was when he appeared on the show in season 1, there weren't many known characters on that show. I mean, I think the majority of the cast came from Frank Darabont's The Mist that was released like 2 years before The Walking Dead. So it was like there were really no known characters until, oh wow, we have Merle Dixon, we have Michael Rooker, and everybody fell in love with it. I mean, I don't think he was the reason why people stayed tuned to the show, because I mean, Merle was only in 2 episodes the whole first season. My op-ed was basically calling out AMC on their storylines, not so much Norman Reedus and the money situation. It's more so that it's blatantly obvious now, and it has been for quite some time, that in order to keep the character, not the actor, because Norman Reedus is an awesome actor outside of The Walking Dead. I've seen a lot of his work. To make the character remain relevant, they have been, and they're continuing to do it, because I already know what's going to happen in the second part of season 9, is that they have taken bits of other characters' storylines and given it to him to make him continue to be relevant. Okay. I mean, Daryl basically, after Beth got killed in season 5, didn't speak for 3 seasons, and all of a sudden he has more dialogue than he's had in 4 years. It's like he's talking, actually. Wow. So I called them out on that, because basically, going back to even before Glenn and Abraham died, they were starting to give pieces of those characters' story arcs to Daryl, the character, not the actor. What they did was they made Glenn on the show less of a standout character than he was in the comics. Everybody knows, even on the show, that Glenn was, I'll say, the conscience of the group. When Rick had to make a tough decision, he would actually speak to Glenn, because Daryl just want to kill everybody, even way back in season 1. And Abraham was the strength of the group. He was the brawn. I mean, because Merle wasn't there. He was more of the military. He knew how to do things in an organized fashion. But what they did with those characters is that they made them less relevant on the show than they were in the comics. So it was starting to piss people off. And then, unfortunately, AMC pretty much has this tendency now just to throw stuff out there without, thinking about what they're doing, because they, like, when Andrew Lincoln was leaving, they made it known. I mean, they made it known and they advertised it as Rick Grimes' final episodes. And it, on the whole, it pissed everybody, a lot of people in the Facebook world off, because it was like there was no surprise. The only surprise that we got with Rick's departure was that he didn't die. For months, everybody was hearing stuff that Rick was going to die. He was going to die horribly, and then he got rescued by Anne, of all people. So that was pretty much the only surprise we got. We knew he was leaving. We just didn't know how. So going back to the Darrow character, the problem is, and that was the point of my op-ed, is that AMC really has to start thinking about how to retain the characters they have, not the new ones. I mean, the Denies, the Aaron, Maggie is gone, and a lot of people are really upset about how they found out after the fact that Rick's final episode was also Maggie's final episode. They never announced it. They never said that this was Maggie's final episode. It was like an afterthought. And a lot of people are still really upset about it. Now, me being a person that thinks outside of the box, if I was Lauren Cohan, even though they left her story arc open ended, the way she was treated, first of all, with the contract issue that led to her leaving the show, and then with them not even acknowledging that she was gone, I wouldn't come back to The Walking Dead. What for? I mean, the show is actually doing well with the characters they have without Maggie. I mean, unfortunately, we just lost Jesus, which really, to me, even though he wasn't portrayed on the show as a big character, that was a big hit to the show. Because it's like, who do you have at the hilltop now? You have Tara. And I'm sorry for the Tara fans out there. Tara is not the person I would leave in charge up there. So, like, now, I mean, the show, I'm going to put it this way, the show is doing a lot better than it has in a couple of seasons. The ratings don't show it, but the ratings are a misnomer when it comes to television world now, because people have so many ways of looking at shows. People DVR it. People are not beholden to look at a show anymore the same day it airs. So the ratings, even though they're saying they're worse, they're not actually worse, because they're not taking into account the other countries who don't see it till Monday or Tuesday. They're not taking into account people who DVR it and look at it another day or maybe a few days later. They're not taking into account that people have other means of looking at it, the internet, other services other than cable, which that's the only thing that Nielsen tracks, is who's looking at it as it airs. So the ratings are a misnomer, but from what I'm getting from the Facebook world is that the show on a whole is a lot more better than it has been in, I'll say, 2 seasons, maybe 3. A lot of people are comparing it to season 4, which in a lot of people's opinion was the best season ever of The Walking Dead. So, I mean, the people complain about the ratings, but you can't really these days you can't gauge a show based on numbers anymore. I
Well,
mean,
I know AMC actually does get data sent to them, and what's called plus seven. What they talk about
mhm,
is what a lot of shows sometimes, like you said, sometimes on the surface, the straight up who watches it at that time can't be the be all end all. And I know certain shows and their futures are often tied into what's called the plus seven, meaning people that are watching it on a DVR or watching it on a delayed fashion, whether because due to their cable company that they can actually watch it later on or what have you through the AMC website and whatnot. They watch it up to 7 days later. So AMC and I know other shows and other networks do actually count that into consideration. But I will say that it is in season 9 one of the lowest ever, as far as actually, in fact, it's the lowest in quite some time as far as the mid-season finale, only garnering a little over 5 million viewers. But on the good side, it is still at this time cable's top-rated show for this season. So you got to look at it the glass right
right.
there, half empty, half full. So in essence, yes, that's good that it's still the cable's top-rated show, but it is substantially less than what even 4 seasons ago when it reached a high of about close to 15 million viewers. I'll
Well,
ask you.
actually, season 5 it broke the record. Season 5, the first episode when the Terminus incident actually broke television record for views. The thing is that, like you said, it is still the highest rated show in cable RTV history. The problem is that the show has been on for 9 years. Okay, we're talking about going into another generation now. Okay, my daughter started looking at The Walking Dead when it first came out. She was 14, 15. And now we have kids coming up now that's starting to catch on to it because parents actually let their kids watch The Walking Dead. I wouldn't watch. I wouldn't let my 8 or 9 year old watch The Walking Dead, but that's personal. That's your personal take on the matter. Um, any show that's been out more than 3 years is going to lose over the course of years. They're going to drop in viewership. That's a known fact. No show is going to maintain the viewership that it has even at its peak. I mean, The Big Bang Theory is another show. It's ending in May after 10 years. I think that was The Walking Dead's only competition because I think they came out at the same time, or maybe The Big Bang Theory came out a year earlier. But any show that has come up since The Walking Dead era has not to this date grabbed number of viewers, even to this day, that The Walking Dead has. So that says a lot for this show. That says a lot for this show. Oh, and before I forget, I'm going to pitch it because Norman will be in New Jersey next weekend. Walker Stalker, New Jersey is happening next weekend. So for the New Yorkers and the New Jersey people, you will be able to go. I think it's in Edison this year at the convention center. You can go and meet Jeffrey D. Morgan, Michael Kudlis, Eugene, all the other cast members except for, I guess, Melissa McBride will not be there. She only goes to Atlanta. Next weekend, the convention is happening. So you will have the opportunity to meet cast members.
Last thing before we head on out, my friend, actually, a couple things. You've talked about your discouragement when it comes to the direction AMC's going on with a focus on Daryl, also what they're doing with some of the other major characters. My suggestion I'd throw out as far as, because right now they have it structured where, okay, what's going on with Denai Guerrera, her character, what's going on with Melissa McBride, her character. A lot of different things are going on, motivations and whatnot. So it's hard for them to go ahead and be at the forefront, even though a lot of people like myself would think that's really cool if they could be considered at the forefront of the show. But what about Aaron? And talking about him and seeing him in a different light over the past couple seasons, seeing him take a little bit more prominent role in what was going on, and him having and sharing a lot of those ideals that Andrew Lincoln once did when he was on the show with his character Rick Grimes. So I ask you, what about the thoughts about Aaron possibly being at the more of a forefront type character, being maybe pushed into a possible lead role at some point down the line? Because I think he's up for it. I think he's up for it.
I actually, over the past 2 seasons, if you look at his appearance, Aaron is Rick 2.0, in my opinion. If you look at from the perspective of the comics, Rick's appearance, I will say the last 2 seasons, Aaron closely resembles, Ross McCon. I can't say his last name, Ross. He actually looks more like Rick from the comics than Andrew Lincoln did. And you know what? I thought it was amazing. I kind of was a little pissed at first when Aaron lost his arm, and that freak accident with the Saviors failing when the Walkers attacked early in the season. Because, that was one of my little brief rants because it was early in the season. The problem was that with Andrew Lincoln in the comics, if you read the comics, Andrew Lincoln arm got cut off by the governor when he captured Michonne, Glenn, and Rick. They said they would never do it on the show because of the fact that CG. Okay, we saw what happened with Shiva. Shiva was only around briefly. They said the cost of CGI would be too expensive, but they came up with a brilliant idea for when they did it with Aaron. They actually just used a prosthetic. And he talked about it. If people look at The Talking Dead, I don't look at it that often anymore for personal reasons, but I did look at the one last week when Jesus was on because I really wanted to see it. And I wanted to hear Ross's explanation as to why they had him lose his arm. And he is actually becoming more Rickish now because he's taken on a lot of the characteristics of the Rick character from the comics. He's lost his arm. Rick didn't get a prosthetic in the comics, but Aaron did. And he's actually, if you saw that fight scene in the cemetery last week, he's good with that fake arm. It was like the walkers can't bite him. So it was like, I think if they do it right, because nobody knows what's going to happen with Deny. Like I said earlier, they have signed both Norman Reedus and Melissa McBride through season 12, which I'm going to say something that I don't want to break people's heart, but I do see the show ending with season 12. So, I put it out there. I think it's going to end in season 12. So I do see that Ross is taking a more prominent role. I do see him because they're not certain about Denai's status because all these movies are coming up. She's in the latest, she's filming the second Black Panther movie. She's filming the final Avengers movie. She has been signed on to do another King Kong movie. And she's in a fourth movie. I can't remember off the top of my head, but she is in major movies coming up this year. So, one, I'll put it this way, they may not be able to afford her anymore. Because that was the biggest thing about my rant was that AMC really needs to give all their actors equal pay and also equal billing. This is an ensemble show. There is not one, although, okay, let's be honest. When the show first started, it was the story of Rick, okay, finding his family, meeting these new communities, trying to protect the whole point of the show until Andrew Lincoln's departure, Rick's departure, was that his whole goal, because he said it to Daryl when they were in the pit in episode 4. He never asked anybody to follow him. Rick's primary purpose was it 8.5 years he was on the show, 8.5 seasons, not years, because the pilot season 1 was actually filmed 2 years before it actually aired. Nobody knows that. Very few people know that. They had pitched it to several other stations, but HBO didn't want it. But the irony of that is that they said The Walking Dead was too violent, but they picked up Game of Thrones. Go figure. That's a big joke amongst the. I call them the deadheads because that's what I call the Walking Dead fans, deadheads. So basically, they didn't want it, so they went around to several stations, and AMC finally picked it up. So for the 10 plus years that Andrew Lincoln has been engaged in the show, it was all about him finding a safe community, keeping his family safe. Okay, so once they killed off Carl, that wanting to keep his family safe transferred over to Alexandria, the community he didn't build. I'll say, inherited when Deanna died. So basically, it was still about family. So now the family is broken up. If you really focused in on what Michonne was saying in the mid-season finale, everybody has to take care of themselves now. Nobody knows what happened with Michonne and Daryl with those exes. Did you catch the exes, or am I giving away something that
No,
you didn't know about?
Yeah, I caught them all right. But I want to leave it
Okay.
with this as far as where we're going with the series, because as you know, the Walkers will become a major force as far as the rest of the season is concerned. With I'm assuming the Whisperers. I'm sorry, the Whisperers become a major portion of the season 9 for the rest of the way going forward, and might even evolve into season 10 too as well. Probably will, the way they stretch things out there as far as the Walking Dead is concerned.
Well, you know what? I don't think so. I think they learned one valuable lesson with season 8. The biggest problem and the reason why they lost viewers were twofold in season 8. One was that Scott Gimple promised that All Out War would not last a whole season, but it did. And the other one was, unfortunately, Negan got more pushed to the forefront than people were ready to accept. So I don't think that the Whisperer War will go into season 10. I think in season 10, we're actually going to see the Commonwealth because they have to explain two things. Georgie's appearance in season 8, when she encountered Maggie and them in season 8, haven't seen her since, and also the helicopter thingy. So those things have to be addressed. And I think, and like I said, I hate to say it, but me being a major fan of the show and me having, I'll say, somewhat of an inside track into what's going on with The Walking Dead. I think season 12 will be the last season. They have actors on the show, Norman Reedus, Melissa McBride, who have been on the show since day one, and Norman's about to turn 50, and Melissa McBride is also in her 50s. And it was interesting when the show first started that they asked them how long. They asked each cast member, because they used to do these promos during the season break before the season actually aired, and they asked them, I think this was between season 2 and 3, how long do they see The Walking Dead as a show? This one show, not the Fear the Walking Dead or whatever other spinoffs they have planned for the Walking Dead universe. They asked each cast member, how long do they see, I'll say major cast members, I'm not talking about all the other ones. How long do they see this show lasting? And the majority of them said 12. And from the way with the second time jump, which was 6 years, and with the way the story is progressing with the Whisperer of War, okay, yeah, I just threw that out there. The Whisperer of War is going to be the whole second half of season 9, by the way. With the Whisperer of War fast approaching, in about 7 weeks, they actually, if you didn't know, you know it now. Season 9 is going to resume on February 10th, not the 24th. They've pushed it up 2 weeks. So we really only have to really get through the holidays and maybe 4 more weeks after that, and The Walking Dead will return. So I don't think that the Whisperer War will continue into season 10. They've already dropped hints with Before Jesus Died, the episode with him and Tara were talking. She actually brought up Georgie again. So Georgie is going to come into play really soon. And we're going to find out. I don't think those I think the helicopters are the Whisperers. But it could be the Commonwealth. So by season 12, and the reason why I'm saying that it's only going to last 12 seasons is because of the comics. By the time the show approaches season 12, they will be current with the comics. They're still somewhat behind now because the Whisperer of War is about to happen. So they have maybe 3 more years of comic material before they get to season 12, and I think they're going to be done. I really think that from a standpoint of the show perspective, and not because of financial reasons, I think it's more so that they would like to end the show somewhere where I'm not going to say, it'll never be resolved because, first of all, Kirkman has said 2 things. One is you'll never know how the zombie apocalypse started. And 2 is that there is no cure. So we'll never see a cure happen on the show. But I think what we will see when the show ends is that there is some kind of resolution, because right now the walkers are no longer a threat. Everybody who has been around. Oh, let me ask you a question. Did you know that this is season 9, so it's 9 years in real time? Did you know that they're saying that it's only been 2 years since Rick woke up in the hospital?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I thought it was less than that, but now you count the season, because now you count the time frame that they jumped to. What was it, 6 years that they supposedly jumped in time frame?
The second time, yeah, after Rick's untimely demise.
So
only
now
the fans know.
8 years. It's right now about 7, 8 years into the actual zombie apocalypse, even though it's
right
9. Yes. So
yes. So now it's about 8, 9 years since the ZA started. So now the walkers are no longer a threat. Everybody who's encountered a walker knows how to deal with it. So now what they're dealing with on the show, and I think people have a hard time accepting it, is that they're dealing with the human conflict, the power struggles, because Negan escaped. Negan is out there somewhere. What happens with Negan, I'm not going to reveal, but Negan is still alive and kicking, and he's going to be back to his badass ways in season 9. So the way the show might end is that they finally get all these communities working together. It won't be perfect. There will never be a cure. There's no way to cure it. Judith is not the cure. Rick wasn't the cure. Carl wasn't the cure because Carl was born before the ZA. So, I mean, I hope they wrap it up. When they finally do in the show, I hope they wrap it up nicely. I think Angela Kane is doing an awesome job. I think she's actually breathing new life into the show, because what was going on with the show in the last 2 years was abominable. It was like there was no continuity in the storyline, and Angela Kane brought that back. There was no, I can say, there wasn't a disappointing episode in the first 8. So I'm seeing some positive things, but like I said, my rant still is that they need to give everybody on that show what they deserve, because they're the ones who make the show. There is not one character, even when Andrew Lincoln was on the show, that stands out more than the other. Okay, they all played a part in the success of that show.
Once again, it's Daphne Matthew from Talking the Dead 18 plus, and also the Walking Dead fan base. I got to get both those groups right. Go ahead and sign up today on both those groups on Facebook. I'll tell you what it is. If you are a Walking Dead fan, it is the place to go for all the conversations about what's going on with the show, the future, and where it's going, and all the things in between. Daphne, it's so great to have you a part of the show. I just cannot thank you enough for taking the time, as always, to talk some Walking Dead. I'm looking forward to seeing what's happening in season 9 and beyond. Like you, season 12 seems like a good round number to go ahead and just stop it off right there. I know a lot of contracts are leading into season 12, and I don't see anything beyond at the moment. And so it looks like from, that writing starting to go on the wall, and that season 12 looks like it's going to end it all at that point in time. But we'll talk more about that on a future date, as far as if it comes to a final and formality, because AMC will probably in 2-3 years down the line will play it up all it's worth as the final season, so to speak. So yeah, but it has been great to have you on the show. Just cannot thank you enough for doing so. And any last thoughts on the way out?
Last thoughts. Oh my gosh. I'm just looking forward to the second half of the season. I want to see where it goes. I actually want to see how they're going to bring the Whisperer War to life. Oh, okay. I'm going to give you a little tidbit to carry you guys over, and then me and you will for the new episode. After the new episode airs, there might be romance for Daryl finally on the horizon. Again, going back to my rant, that's one of the reasons why they killed off Carl. Because if you look at Lydia's older than she is in the comics. So there might be some romance there finally for Daryl. I know a lot of us are rooting for it, because it's like, come on, 9 years and only thing you have is a dog to show for it? Come on, really? Carol's with the king. That's not going to happen. So there's a possibility of romance finally for Daryl. I know there's been, I'm going to keep this really brief. because I know I've talked a lot today, but this season really had me going. I know there's been a lot of complaints from the LGBTQ communities about these Jesus's death, because last season we lost Eric and now they've lost Jesus, and everybody knows Jesus' character on the show was gay. So there's been a lot of outrage from the community about that. I'm gonna say this because I pretty much know why Tom Payne left. It wasn't. It wasn't. And this one, I will not blame on AMC. That was the actor's decision. He did not want the romance to happen like it did in the comics, and he wanted to leave the show. A lot of people are upset about it. A lot of people are saying that, these actors have no, how should I say it? Uh, Appreciation. I'm missing the word. It's not appreciation, but the word eludes me. And I'm going to say this because I think this is also part of my rant, and I want to make it crystal clear to, to the fans out there. These people act for a living. Okay, whether it's on The Walking Dead, it's in a movie, it's on a different show. These people are actors. This is how they live. And if they decide to leave the show to pursue better opportunities for financial reasons, we shouldn't hold that against them, okay? Because first of all, acting is a very sketchy profession to be in the first place. Okay, it's risky. You could go years without being on the show. Tom Payne even said it in his on The Talking Dead. When he got the role of Jesus on The Walking Dead, he was rejoicing because he was living at home. He in his 30s, living at home, and he maxed out his credit cards because there were no roles there. So we have to respect these actors' decisions. This is how they make their living. Okay. And especially for a woman of the in after the age of 35 in Hollywood is considered old. They don't get cast as often. So if Lauren Cohan, who is 36, is offered a role on a different network that's going to pay her more, thank her for her time and wish her well. Andrew Lincoln just turned 45. This is one of the few actors on The Walking Dead who's never done a show or a movie outside of The Walking Dead, the 10 plus years he's been tied to the show. And people are mad with him and are making comments about, oh, when his bank account is zero, he'll come back. Andrew Lincoln was a well-known actor in the UK before The Walking Dead. Okay. He has done work. He had done work in the US before The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead did not make him, and him leaving the show will not break him. So, as much as we love these characters, we've grown to love them, we've come attached to them, we need to respect their decisions as individuals because this is how they live. Okay, we have 9 to 5 jobs, most of us, and we have to go to work every day. Else, you know what? We'll lose our job or we don't get paid. So that thought process we have with our commitments on a daily basis to our families, to our jobs, to whatever we do in our professions, we need to apply that to these actors and stop thinking that they are obliged to continue on a show. And that is my final thoughts and my op-ed on the on Facebook in the Walking Dead fan base and also in Talking to Dead about the state of affairs with the Walking Dead, Gerald.
And once again, you can check out her thoughts and the thoughts of so many other so many other Walking Dead fans out there on the Walking Dead fan base and Talking the Dead 18 plus. It is my good friend, once again, Daphne Matthew. As always, Daphne, it's great to have you on the show. I wish you and your family a happy holiday season. And I'll tell you what, just more goodness. Maybe you should go ahead and watch some back episodes of The Walking Dead, pick out your favorites and whatnot, as far as, for that layover in between now and February, because, there's going to be a little bit of time in there, or maybe take a rest, take a vacation from The Walking Dead from a little while.
I'm actually just starting a trivia contest in the Walking Dead fan base next week. So I'm still with The Walking Dead. For those who don't know, I just became a grandmother 6 weeks ago. So I'm also doing grandma duty. So, if anybody wants to join us in the Walking Dead fan base, we do trivia every Tuesday and Thursday. I just gave away an autograph Lucille signed by Jeffrey Dean Morgan. So the prizes are there. You have to be in it to win it. And with that, I'm going to say goodnight to you, Gerald. Have a great holiday to you and your beautiful family. And we will talk again in February, or if not sooner.
Well, you're always welcome to come back on the show to talk anything about pop culture, The Walking Dead, or anything else. It's always just great to have you a part of
thank you, my friend.
No problem. You too have the pop culture.
Hey, you have a good evening.
You too. All right.